Can video games ruin your life?
Why do so many people play video games?
Excessive gaming can also cause depression. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Bad Controller podcast. I'm Pawan and I'm joined with Rohan. And today we are going to be talking about can video games ruin your life? Um, And the inspiration for this episode sort of came from back in 2023, last year, where the World Health Organization decided to classify gaming disorder as a new mental health condition. And that threw a lot of us in. I remember heated arguments on forums and our media, social media groups and whatnot about video games aren't that bad, they don't cause mental addiction, but like I remember hearing that news and it was like, okay, this is not what the gaming community needed right now, maybe.
Yeah, a bulk of the people were really offended. How can you
Yeah,
classify it as a mental health condition? But then, yeah, it's just like anything else. They were really classifying it as a mental health addiction only if it came to a level where people weren't able to function with their regular lives,
right,
right? So,
right. So at the extreme end of it, like the extreme, and it didn't say obviously that, if you start playing video games, you're going to have a mental health disorder. That's the quick connection that some people made that, hey, I play video games, but like I don't have a mental health condition. Although, the fact that the World Health Organization has acknowledged it and has listed it is a significant thing. And so, there must be some real risk, Rohan, about can video games actually cause, mental health disorders. And there's another couple of things that, video games can have a negative impact on. So, I'll let you go first. So what's your experience with all the negatives and all the harm that video games can do, or is said in society and in our communities that video games can harm you in these ways?
yeah, I think it's split 50-50. Of course, there's a lot of gamers. There's about 3.32 billion people who play games. So that's a lot of people, and there's a lot of people on the internet. Some people are for it, some people are not for it. But I think
Yeah.
let's start with the super interesting fact actually. When we talk about gamers, a lot of people assume gamers are kids and they're the ones who get
Hmm.
impacted. But the average age of a gamer is 33.
Right.
33 for males, and in fact, it's a bit older for females. It's like 36 for females.
Yeah.
Uh, North American stats, but also in India, the range is from 28 to 34, and it's around the same age range all over the world, even
Yeah.
across Europe. And so, with so anything we discuss in this episode is going to cover the average gamer. So don't
Right.
think just kids. But then
Yeah.
again, why do so many people play video games? It's a lot. 3.32 billion is a lot.
Yeah, and it's so like, why do people get hooked to it? It's not like people play it and then stop playing. A lot of us and like a lot of people in our communities and like we've known each other through gaming, Rohan. We wouldn't have met if it weren't for gaming. But why is it that like 3.3 billion people enjoy games? And of course, these are not just console games or PC games. These include mobile gaming as
Mobile
well. So
games.
that's
Yeah.
just a shout out to include those in the stats.
Yeah. So one explanation is, of course, there's the self-determination theory. It basically describes humans having this innate need for certain things in their life. I mean, we can split that across competence and autonomy and relatability. So competence is basically us, whether we are at work or games or whatever we
Hmm.
do in life, we want to be good at it. We want to have some kind of mastery over whatever we do. So that's the
Hmm.
competence part. And relatability is just being in a relatable environment, being around people who think the same, who want the same things. And autonomy is basically having the power to make your own decisions.
Yeah.
I mean, very relatable. Right? These are things that we generally look for in life. We want to have power over our lives. We
Right.
want to be in a relatable place. We want to be good at what we do. And if you think about it, a video game gives you all of that.
It gives us
So
all of this. Yeah.
exactly. So that in a way satisfies all our basic needs. So
Yeah.
that's one reason. I mean, there's so many people playing video games. Um, in a way, you could also say,
Yeah, I like
yeah,
how we're throwing self-deterministic theory in as if like it's a conversational thing. But of course, for this episode, we've done the research and we've looked at, all
yeah,
these
yeah.
reasons. That's where this psychological language is coming from. But like, well, if you allow me to just simplify it for a second, it basically means, it says that, okay, what drives human motivation? What drives a repetition of a behavior? And it's these three factors, like you said, competence, relatability, autonomy, in which, like, okay, I have control of what I'm doing. I can relate to what I'm doing, and I'm getting good at what I'm doing. It's basically these three things, right?
Yeah, and apparently there's a model called the player experience of need,
Yeah.
need satisfaction,
Hmm.
Penn's model,
Good old Penn's
PNS.
model. Surely, surely.
Yeah, the great Penn's model. So
Huh.
apparently that model is used a lot in game development.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
people
Like,
working in the game industry would be quite familiar with this model.
right.
So they really are inserting all of these needs of
Oh, yeah.
people
Yeah.
while making a game. So in a way, you could say, of course, that's something that can push someone to get addicted when you're getting all of this. But we'll talk more about that. Yeah.
Yeah, where you literally laid out all the steps, all the, the gleaming chests and all these things in the game that hit exactly these parameters. So of course, people are prone to get addicted. But yeah, so no, this is a good intro to why people get, hooked to games. Why do we do anything, in fact, but in our example right now, about
Yeah.
gaming. So the negative impacts. What all can video games do? Like, I feel like most of us have a sense of, okay, if we play video games too often or too much, let's say like I'm playing 8, 10 hours a day regularly, that's probably bad for you. I don't think like most people would sit and think that, clocking 12 hours repeatedly every second day, every day is a good thing. But what is that like for the brain? What does that sort of end up doing?
Um, it gives you this false dopamine hits, right? I mean, there are different ways to feel good,
Yeah.
but then having this false sense of satisfaction, that can never be good. I mean, I remember when I mean, it's hard to say now that I have 8 to 10 hours a day to to play video games,
Yeah.
but there was a period in my life when I did have 8 to 10 hours to play,
Same. Yeah.
and yeah, and that's probably how we met as well, right? Playing Battlefield 3 for that many hours.
Hmm.
It definitely did make us feel good, but that's not the kind of feel good that that is going to be beneficial for us in the long run, right?
Right. That's what I said. When we say we play games and like when we're not super casual, when we're not playing like super simple and rainbowy fun games are stressful. Like Call of Duty is stressful. Even Candy Crush can get stressful if you're at that level and like you don't need to lose a life and you want to pay for a new life and whatnot. But yeah, competitive gaming and even single player games can surely be like anxiety provoking. Have you felt that during your
No,
many years?
yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, it is all about KD, right? Playing FPS games, and obviously, I had the lowest KD while playing games, and that was pretty stressful. So, I was always trying to get past have a KD of at least one and above,
Yeah.
and I was always playing with people with at least KD of like 2.5. So, I mean, there did come a point when I kind of gave up on that and just tried to better
Yeah.
my own KD. But it does get
With half
yeah,
KD, you were at the top of the leaderboards because like you were just playing as part of the team,
exactly,
which was really
yeah,
cool.
and PTFO became the big thing. Like
All
just
right.
play the freaking objectives. So I would go with that, saying, "Hey, look at the scoreboard! I'm on top over there."
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but it does get stressful, and not just FPS games, even other games, right? You want to finish a level before you go to bed. You just have to do it. You can't put your controller down, and it can be quite stressful.
Absolutely. And, part of the reasons that it's the excessive gaming, again, the key here is excessive, right? Excessive gaming can also cause depression because there's studies that are done that there's associations of higher levels of depression, particularly when, like I mentioned, when it replaces other fulfilling activities. So, I've sort of experienced this mildly. Like, I don't like throwing like the word depression around because it is a serious mental condition. But I've noticed that, if I have a weekend and all I've done is play video games, and I've not left the house towards the evening time, I sort of
Yeah,
start feeling a little low.
yeah,
Besides relatability with this, of course, there's a lot of studies that make this connection, and
yeah.
so that is certainly one of the reasons how video games can negatively impact your life. That's definitely something to look out for. There's case studies that support it. There's individual experiences.
Yeah.
Um,
And also when it comes to spending, right? I mean, microtransactions, we covered that in another episode as well.
yeah.
That's also a negative effect of, can't say excessive gaming, but in general, I mean, kids do spend a lot of money
Oh yeah.
on games.
Right.
And again, kids have limited cash to
Mm-hmm.
spend. And when they spend on video games, it just means they have lesser money to spend on other things,
Correct.
which takes them, yeah, away from going outside, hanging out with people, and they end up just so,
Absolutely.
yeah. That's so. There's indeed a lot of negative aspects.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be
One
some positive as well, right?
It definitely is. And of course, we've kept that for like the second portion and the like third portion of the thing. But one thing I do want to also touch upon is the violence aspect, right? Because we've
Yeah,
heard about how, when we were younger and we were playing these first person shooter games and GTA and whatnot, our parents or somebody would say that, okay, stop playing video games or they'll make you violent. Stop playing video
yeah,
games or you'll turn into a murderer. Like there's
yeah.
been some very like depressing incidents that did have this correlation, but like what does the research say about this now? Is there actually any credence to the fact that, well, not the fact that, but the thought that video games can make you violent?
There's, contrary to popular belief, there's actually research that says that there's no correlation between video games and
Hmm.
violence. Now, again, there have been situations out there where there's been certain incidents where the the person who has been accused of causing violence has straight away mentioned that he learned certain things from video games.
Right.
But those are specific individuals. But research has shown the exact opposite. So there is no reason to believe that video games cause violence in any manner. It's a myth.
Yeah. It's a
Uh,
myth and it's been debunked. And we can maybe list
yeah,
we can link some of the research that supports
yes,
this and the other things that
yeah.
we
You can read
mentioned.
all about it.
Yeah, you guys can read all about it. But that's good to do. So that means that, whenever you hear somebody saying, "Hey, stop playing that violent video games or it's going to make you violent," you can just like say, "No, research supports that this myth has been busted." I hope the Mythbusters don't send us a trademark infringement on this one, but anyway. Yeah, so video games definitely do have a potential to ruin your life. We've talked about depression, we've talked about anxiety, we've talked about how they can take away motivation to do other important things. Uh, so what are some of the positives? Why is it not a blanket ban or some hard regulations on kids and teenagers and adults playing video games?
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a bit of benefits, right? First thing you could say, it improves cognitive abilities.
Hmm.
There's Every video game has some kind of a element of, I shouldn't say every, but a lot of video games have elements of puzzle solving, and it pushes the gamer to actually think
Right,
on how they could solve certain issues, even if it's just getting from one area of the map to another area. Everything provokes the player to give some thought to it.
right.
Again, not all games. There are games that just run and gun, and so it's like, yeah, that doesn't really
Mindless. Yeah, of course.
exactly. There are mindless games, and then it also helps with memory, keeping focus and attention to the story itself. So it really helps you
Right.
to focus.
Yeah.
And gaming, in fact, also helps with multitasking, because if you take most of the games, the gamer is having to do multiple things at the same time.
Yeah.
You're tracking a target, you're looking at your map, you got your whole inventory, which can get quite overwhelming in some of the games.
Of
So it's a lot
course.
of things to manage at the same time
Yeah.
while making sure you're not like sniped from somewhere
Yeah.
or
Active task switching and
exactly, yeah, yeah. And again, there's been a lot of yeah.
yeah.
I thought I cut you off.
Okay. No, no, thanks. I was just saying that whenever we play any new game, it there's a again another I'm going to throw another psychological term out there, brain neural plasticity, right? So it's basically
Yeah,
how your brain makes new connections when it's learning something new. And how often is it in everyday life, really, after you're an adult, you're in a job and whatnot. Sure, you learn a few things
yeah,
on the job every now and then, but mostly you're in sort of an autopilot mode when you're performing, you're delivering and whatnot. You stop learning new things. With video games, especially with new ones, there is neural plasticity, which has been neuroplasticity has been suggested as, again, research supports this. It helps you avoid dementia. It helps you avoid Alzheimer's. It
yeah.
helps you avoid getting senile as you age, and it's basically really good for you to learn new things frequently. So I think that's a really cool thing, because whenever you play a new game, at the
Yes.
first playthrough or whatever, the first few hours, it's overwhelming. Like, how do I manage this inventory? I remember I'm playing Cyberpunk 2077 right now. There's so much in it. There's so many
Yeah.
different things. The inventory is so confusing when you begin to look at it. But like within a dozen hours or so, or even less, you get the hang of it, and then you get more proficient at it. You get better at it, and it just sort of I know that I've learned how to do this, and now I'm like I've created those neurons, even if those neurons are only doing this specific task of being better at this video game, it's still really good for us.
No, it becomes really important as we age to keep our brains active. So yeah, and video games is a great way to do that.
Yeah, and
So
like
I mean, people do say just play Sudoku, but Sudoku
yeah,
can it, I
yeah.
love Sudoku.
Yeah, I like Sudoku. I'd rather play
Yeah,
Sudoku on my long flights than on
yeah,
my
yeah,
Friday evenings when I don't feel super social. Uh,
yeah.
but yeah. What about the
And
what about the aspect of like teamwork and coordination? It's also heavily involved, especially in multiplayer games, right?
yep, definitely right. I mean, while giving job interviews, I've years back, while giving job interviews, I have mentioned that I play a lot of video games. I'm great at
Nice.
being a.
How did that like? Did you get feedback on if that was a
I think it worked, yeah. but but yeah, no, there's I mean, take any co-op game, right? It really helps to build relationships with if you're playing with your friend or
yeah,
family or sibling, because then you have a common objective. You have to work together to achieve it,
right?
and again, the satisfaction of finishing a level, moving on to the next one, nothing like it, right? So,
Absolutely.
yeah, it really helps to build teamwork to help
Yeah,
you work better with other people.
absolutely.
And with different games, each person has different skills, so it's about also complementing each other's.
Right. Especially in games like Battlefield, where you have different classes, and even in like simpler other games, like you have to do it.
Yeah,
Overwatch is a great example. There's like different classes. If everybody takes
yeah,
the same class of hero, which is like maybe an assault hero or whatever, you'll not have any healers, and your team will
yeah,
lose. So in
exactly.
multiplayer gaming, you can only do that experience so many times before realizing that you have to
Yeah,
balance a team. And like often when I play Overwatch, I am not on my mic. And so
yeah,
this coordination sort of automatically happens. If I see that my team has
yeah,
two tanks, one attacker, whatnot, I'll need to
yeah.
be the healer, and then like it's a really fun game, and so that aspect is definitely there.
Yeah. The community does frown upon people who don't use their mics, but then, but
I'm shy, man. I'm telling you, like we talked about anxiety, like just being on the mic too much gives me the tiniest bit of anxiety, unless it's of course with
yeah,
people I know. And so like I sometimes avoid it. But yeah, when somebody's talking on the phone, like when somebody's talking on like a random team I'm thrown into, then like of
yeah,
course I'll jump in, I'll communicate back. I won't be like creepy, like by the sound of my breath on the mic, but I'm not speaking when the teammate is like, hey, what's going on here? So yeah, you go in and whatnot.
yeah. And there's also games like Overcooked, which can get quite stressful.
Oh yeah.
So And there's another game I saw called Chained Together. It's a new game on
Oh
PC
yeah, yeah, yeah.
where a couple of people are just chained together and have to complete
Correct.
tasks, right? Climbing
Two
out.
people are chained together, they're handcuffed, and they have to sort of like go. It's like
Yeah.
that game Up, but it's like with two people chained together. Yeah.
So, and I used to play a lot of Overcooked, and so there's a thin line between building relationships and absolutely destroying them because your partner can get
Yeah.
very annoyed
Yeah.
when you can't get past. So,
Yeah.
some games are quite stressful, but then again, it's
Yeah.
still fun.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, and the whole social interaction part, right?
Hmm.
It's a huge community when it comes to online gaming,
Yes.
and again, like we have a lot. I could easily say a lot of my closest friends I have met through online
Right.
games till today.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah, there's that bit, and also slow progression games or cozy games.
Mhm.
There's a whole genre now called cozy games. Mostly I've
Yeah.
seen it on the Switch.
Yeah.
Animal Crossing, for example, came out right at the peak of COVID, or at the start of COVID, actually. I spent a
Yeah.
lot of hours on that. Uh, that is really nice. So there's a lot of Stardew Valley, for example, also a nice slow game to play by yourself.
Yeah, there's a lot of peaceful, like slow, relaxing games to play now, especially from indie studios, which I think is
Yeah,
amazing. And like I have the PlayStation subscription, right, extra, and I have the Game Pass subscription as well. I often try these indie games,
yeah,
and they're really like slow. There's no stress. You can just chill.
yeah.
You can just play. You can just see what art the person has created. You can just enjoy it. Journey is one of my favorite
Oh,
games.
oh,
And
I
like
remember that.
there's
Yeah,
nothing intense in Journey. You're just like gracefully walking through a desert or like gliding through a desert. It's just a really soothing and a
yeah,
really nice game. Um,
yeah. And there's a ton of games which is in the recent years
yeah,
they've been developing games for kids, but I don't mean games like Fortnite, but for kids to actually learn and to help them better their memory and such very educational games. So I don't think video games have been actively used in schools yet,
mhm,
but I don't see that being something that's impossible.
yeah,
Very soon, I think they'll be developing games to help with learning in schools
yeah,
itself.
absolutely.
Um,
Um,
yeah,
and to keep your attention in one place. Yeah,
yeah. Speaking of again kids and games, I've had a few friends of mine who are concerned about the kids getting into video games, and
mm,
my friends' kids right now are just at the age where they have other friends in schools probably who are talking about video
yeah,
games and they have consoles. So that's always a bit concerning, isn't it, when when a kid has to enter this world where probably the parent is not so familiar with. So they do have concerns.
mm.
Um, and have you had anyone approach you about?
I've had people reach me on like the online communities that we manage, right? We've had couple of people ask us on the groups themselves, like, hey, this is an R-rated game. My kid wants to play it. Should it be allowed? Hey, how much time is ideal for a kid of age this like 6 or 5 or 8 or whatever? How much should they play? So definitely we've had those questions coming in. And over the years we've come out with something of a like kind of a common sense formula, but something that we feel that helps, which is basically to keep it in moderation and to keep it in check. Right? These two simple things. Don't let it go in excess. Know what the child is playing. There's
Yeah,
ratings on all the games. Those ratings are there. They're a well-regulated section of the industry. Uh, those ratings tell you exactly what games your kid should play or not play. Adhere to those ratings. Right? Those are my two go-to things about advising parents. How do you end up like helping people or suggesting?
same thing. I mean, you can't trust the ratings. There are some games that maybe get it wrong. I don't know. There's always been a controversy about the rating for GTA games, for
Oh yeah.
example. But I think it's primarily screen time, just regulating your kid's screen time, just like you regulate TV screen time.
Mm.
It's the same with video games. I mean, I guess it's okay to use it as a reward system for your kids. Uh, do a good thing, get a couple of hours of gaming.
Yeah.
But then they also have to be careful about letting the kids play online and interact with random
Yeah.
strangers.
Yeah.
So yeah, there has to be some kind of boundary set, and some kind of an agreement between the kid and the parent.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a ton of information available online as well for parents to really read upon before they commit to
Yeah.
any kind of a console for the kid.
Correct. And it's obviously it's not an all or nothing approach. It's again with this whole conversation, the underlying thing has been that moderation is key, right? Excess of anything is bad. If you go to exercise too often, if you overdo it there, even that's bad for you. Your body doesn't recover, you get injured. And we all know this. We all know this intuitively, and so that's the key here, right? So with younger children who are just starting to play games, like you were saying, monitoring is important. Letting the kids understand why a little bit. Of course, you should not treat children as adults and expect them to understand everything. They need a little bit of discipline, and that's your role as a guardian when you're a parent.
Yeah,
But overall, including the moderation bit, it's just be involved in what the child is doing. Be careful about what they're playing, what kind of content they're consuming, and how much they're consuming. I have these I'm an uncle, so like these nieces, like I have a niece and a nephew. They're 12 now, and their parents don't let them play until it's the weekend, and also on the weekends they have a very regulated time. And they're in the US and still they don't have access to social media, and I can see how smart these kids are, how not distracted they are. Like they're not uploading stuff, they're not comparing themselves to other teenagers and whatnot. And
yeah,
they're a healthy mix of playing. He pretty much always plays Minecraft,
yeah,
and like my niece, she is often playing like Rocket League or some other game like that, which is you know
yeah.
it's a good soothing experience. So
Yeah. I mean, my goddaughter is 3 years old, loves Bluey,
yeah,
and recently I discovered there's a Bluey game on Game Pass.
nice.
So I mean, you'd think it's perfect
Yeah.
uh, to expose the kid to the video game
Mm.
with characters which has characters she absolutely loves. But then again, at this point, I'm not sure how it would affect the kid itself. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's it's there's no straight answer to it.
Yeah. The good part is there's a lot of research that we can now like look up and we can like educate ourselves. And you want to make the right decision, of course. So like a little bit of effort is totally warranted there.
Exactly. But yeah, overall, I mean, there's a lot of good in video games. The whole social aspect, building cognitive abilities, the whole emotional aspect. There's some wonderful story-based games,
Yeah.
which you could say is an alternative to reading books as well. I do love reading books, but I feel you can get a lot of similar benefits from
Yeah.
gaming as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely.
Yeah, and then of course there's the negatives we spoke about. So ultimately, would you say it all comes down to having good balance?
Absolutely. Yeah, like with everything else in life, it comes down to balance. A lot of positive aspects, significant, important negative aspects as well. And, I wouldn't give up gaming for anything in the world for me, right? It's important. I've been playing since, I don't know, 2 decades now, without aging myself too much. But yeah, I wish I knew some of these things earlier, right? The moderation there, how to like
Yeah,
not compromise my social life for my video games, and some of these things I wish I knew earlier, including stuff like how video games don't make you violent, because I've definitely heard that thrown at me a couple of times. But
yeah,
obviously all my parents were trying to do was to like protect me from excessively gaming. And so yeah, it's all about balance. I'm glad we're living in an age where all of this information is available, all of this knowledge is there, and all of this research that supports it is there, so you can make a really informed and educated decision about how much you're playing, what you're playing, and what you're compromising versus not compromising in this experience. And of course, it's a valid career trajectory as well. Esports are huge and they're going to get bigger.
yeah,
So there's totally a space for people who are really serious and dedicated about it to give it their all. But again,
Yeah,
there's a fine line between just playing all day versus just trying to be competitive, which also requires discipline, and it also requires, a process. It's not just I'm good at it, let me just compete now. So yeah,
yeah,
overall, it's
yeah.
totally a balance. What do you think?
I forgot the hand signal we agreed on to say we are kind of going over time, but
Uh,
I think we'll have to wrap it up here.
yeah, it's just such an
But
engaging topic. I just kind of went on,
I know,
but
I know. It's there's so much to discuss this, and yeah, we could do a whole another episode part two for this. But final thoughts, moderation, and finding that balance, right?
yeah,
Video games are not bad. I think we can close with that. Video games are
yeah,
definitely not bad.
definitely lobbying for that one.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're a concerned parent, if you're a concerned relative, friend for somebody who you think is addicted to video games or having anxiety or depression, and if you think it's called because of video games, I'm gonna put some material, reading material, and some links in the description. Go check it out and have fun, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much. See you
All
all in the
right.
next one.